All right, folks, this is a long-awaited video on how to boost inanimate objects. You'll just have to figure it out. Inanimate objects is something other than a living human being or living animal or whatever. But first off, let me cover a couple of things that I need to get covered, and it's basically to catch people up, okay? Oops. First off, here's the important thing. Important disclaimer, all content and media on this video is created and published for the informational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as help or personal advice. Always seek the guidance of your doctor or other qualified health professional with any questions you may have regarding your health or medical condition. Never disregard the advice of a medical professional or delay in seeking it because of something you may see or hear on this video. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor, go to the nearest hospital, emergency department, or call the emergency services immediately. If you choose to rely on any information provided by this video, you do so solely at your own risk. Remote boosting is not for the purpose of treating any illness or energy, but is merely a process by which you boost specific nutrients by way of a quantum field. Any results from remote boosting should be seen only as a result of the body taking advantage of the nutrients it received by way of the boost. And since we're going to be talking about inanimate objects, I don't think any of this really applies, but it's kind of important that we talk about it. All right. I say this all the time. Every once in a while, sometimes in a generation, sometimes longer, there's an idea, development, a leap of progress so fantastic, seemingly improbable, even impossible, that shatters all preconceived notions of what is possible, what is real. It blurs the line between science and magic, between fact and fiction. It usually changes the world in a very big way. This is the Olympic Arc technology with the remote boosting capabilities, and I would say in this case, with the ability to boost inanimate objects, it's like way into the field of outside of believability. But the experiment I'm going to give you at the end of this will prove to you that it does work, by the way. So there is an experiment that I will give you at the end of this video that will enable you to prove that you can actually boost an inanimate object. Anyway, introduce the first quantum energy wellness products managed with this click of an app. What is it? What makes Olympic Arc different? Anyway, just remember, I've said this before, Olympic Arc is truly a first of its kind technology. The technology behind the Olympic Arc system was developed over 14 years ago by our parent company and Dr. Cook, and the technology has been used by thousands of doctors and healthcare professionals over the years. This technology routinely creates life-changing effects. There's no competition anywhere in the world because no other company has been able to harness quantum energy, wellness products, and deliver them through an easy-to-use app interface. Can anyone download the app? Yeah, right now, just go to your app store and get it. Okay. Is Olympic Arc some devices that generate frequency? Nope, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. It's way outside the box. It has nothing to do with frequency. How quickly will I see a change? And when we're dealing with this boosting an inanimate object, you're not going to be able to ask the object if it feels better, and that's a little bit silly. And you're thinking to yourself, well, why do I want to do that? Well, just wait. You're going to see this. It's going to be pretty amazing. Does the person have to be near the cell phone? In this case, does the inanimate object have to be near you? Actually, no. You could actually boost an inanimate object just like you do someone else on the other side of the world and do the same type of experiment. But with the experiment that I'm going to give you, you'll need to be right there near that person and near the inanimate object, which I will give you to use. Okay, the boost that you have is all these different boosts: calm, focus, energy, sleep, multiple nutrients, immune system, stress relief, pain relief, strength, allergy, his, hers, weight, vision. By the way, we're going to be using strength today, boosting an inanimate object with strength. That will be the test, and I'll show you as soon as we get at the bottom of this, at the end of this website. The most recent addition to the list of boosts, by the way, is the boost for digestion. I'm going to assume that you'll kind of figure out that trying to help the digestive system for an inanimate object will be somewhat fruitless, but one never knows. So let me make it clear here. No, it's not going to help the digestive system of a rag. On the other hand, if your car is having a serious case of diarrhea, you might wish to give it a try. Oh, okay, probably not, but let's just try. Anyway, what exactly am I talking about boosting inanimate objects, and what possible benefits can that bring to you or someone else? Believe it or not, there's actually a rather obvious benefit. Well, obvious to me. Anyway, all right. It'll be obvious to you in a few seconds. So let me explain. The reason that your Olympic Arc app has a notification aspect to it is to keep your subconscious mind engaged to receive the boost coming to you. I say coming, but it's really important to understand that it's not really coming, as your quantum field is already at the computer. In reality, it's part of the computer, as it is part of the entire universe of consciousness. How is this possible, you might add? Well, I haven't a clue personally, but neither do quantum physicists, and they're a whole lot smarter than I am, but yeah, well, I'm charming. I'm more charming than they are. There's actually a couple of reasons you might want to boost. Actually, it would always be remote boost in an inanimate object. Increase the nutritional value of food that you're eating. Think about this. You're eating a Whopper or Burger King Big Mac. I'm not Burger King, Burger King Whopper or McDonald's Big Mac. What about boosting into that hamburger that you're eating on the fly multiple vitamins, your boost of multiple vitamins? What do you think? Increase the nutritional value of water that you're drinking all day long out of those plastic bottles been sitting out in the sun and leaching out all kind of chemicals into the body. Why not putting the strength into that? What about putting in the pain relief into that? All sorts of why not going through and creating your own custom boost and putting into that water that you want? And we'll be talking about the memory of water a little bit later on in this video. Increase the awareness of boosting taking place. Give someone a cloth, a rag, a shirt, a sock for that matter, that will have the nutrients in it to absorb into the person you you gave it to. Or is that two? I mean, I can never figure that out. It's well known and the documented fact that water retains signals placed in it and does so for a long time. But you should know by now that the boost is way above any description of signal, as it is a specific information code of a particular nutrient or batch of nutrients. And as such, it will not last long in the object you boosted, as it will be absorbed by the person. At least that's what I'm thinking. It's been my experience. It'll last about 3 days in something like a cloth. Simply reboosted it as needed. Remember, the subconscious mind works primarily around recognizing patterns. It sees, for instance, the easily recognizable trail through the jungle of life, and operating with a keen eye on energy conservation, it attempts to revert to basically muscle memory, rather than constantly trial and error with new patterns. It's up to the conscious mind to order the subconscious to pay attention to receiving the nutrients by way of a rather strange method, i.e. the reason for the boost notification of your app. Having a cloth or sock pinned to the inside of your clothes is a convenient way of doing just that, rather than a long-term boost with through the limbic arc. But it's still got to retain that energy or that information that was in there. That's going to do that. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. It's important to note here that the reason that you pin the cloth on the sock or to the inside of your clothes is that if you pin it to the outside, yeah, people laugh at you and call up the guys in the white jackets with the white coats with the straight jacket. Keep in mind here, it's not simply to keep your subconscious engaged. The object will actually have the boost information within it. That's important to understand here. Now, before you go getting all pissy on me saying that there's no way in hell you can boost inanimate objects, you might wish to remember that it is an inanimate object that holds the information that you were boosting. Yeah, that would be the library of the computer. So if you don't believe you can boost an inanimate object, then please explain to me how it's coming from an inanimate object. I bet you hadn't thought about that, had you? Before you go accuse me of being outside your religious views, consider that Moses reportedly had a stick with a rather unique set of strength. Speaking of limbic arc, Moses later had the Ark of the Covenant, which was an inanimate object. Oh, all right, don't get quick on me here. It's spelled A-R-K, but it's close enough to be at least be interesting. Jesus, you might recall, when dealing with a blind man, spit in the dirt, scooped it up, and rubbed the mud into his eyes and asked, "What do you see?" The blind man said, "I see men as trees." To which Jesus then spit again and rubbed the mud made from the spit and rubbed it again into his eyes, and then the man could then see perfectly. Not exactly remote boosting, but mud was inanimate for sure. So don't go telling me that something can't be transferred into a cloth. And the preacher's been doing that for years. Okay, something simple will be a cloth large enough to lay over, say, a knee or something on the body that is hurting. Something that you may not have considered, boost your car with focus, vision, and any number of others and experience what happened. I did a lady one time named Victoria on her way to the grocery store. This is a lady who used to use walkers and wheelchairs and stuff like that. Now, because of another technology, she's out walking and without a walker or a wheelchair. And but on the way there, I was on the telephone with her. I boosted her car. And on the way there, with focus, by the way, focus and vision. And on the way there, she says, my gosh, she says, my mind is clearer now than it has been in decades. She says, I'm remembering things I've not remembered in so long. And furthermore, I'm able to see better. And then I was on the phone with her as she went in the grocery store. She says, I'm walking better than I've ever walked, because I'd boosted her car with strength as well. So, I mean, it was just an amazing experience to watch what happened as she was experiencing having sat in an entire environment surrounding her with all this information that was coming to her in the car. She was so excited. What about your entire house, your clothes, your shoes, or your office chair for that matter? I'd say that there's no limit, but I kind of suspect that boosting the moon would be the crossing the line, justifying the question. Are you nuts? Anyway, the simple answer is there any scientific research to back up water memory or theory, of this, things, inanimate objects holding memory? The simple answer to that is absolutely yes. But as with any scientific research, there's always dissenters and those that are not convinced. But do your own research, and you're going to be quite amazed at the massive amount of documentation experiments that prove the capability of water to retain memory. Go to YouTube and search water memory. Grab a cup of coffee or tea, sit back and expect to be entertained for hours, by the way. But inanimate objects like cars, that's not water, so it's a little different. How can an inanimate object like a car hold a frequency like water? That question in and of itself indicates that you have a misunderstanding of exactly what is being boosted, but don't be too hard on yourself. There's a whole lot of quantum physicists that feel the same way. Do, though, remember that the Olympic Arc Library is not made up of water, neither is your quantum field. It's all quite mind-boggling, but be comforted in knowing that most quantum physicists will tell you that if you know anything about quantum energy and don't get dizzy, you don't have a clue as to what you're talking about. We live in a world of energy. Everything in this world is basically nothing but energy, made up of atoms, which consist of a nucleus made up of one or more protons with an equal amount of neutrons. The nucleus is surrounded by circling electrons. Protons and neutrons are both composed of their particles called quarks and gluons. By the way, there's protons contain 2 up quarks and 1 down quark, while neutrons contain 1 up quark and 2 down quarks. It's really weird. Gluons are responsible for binding the quarks to one another. But before I lose you to a boredom-induced coma, the interesting thing is if you were to blow up the size of a nucleus of an atom to the size of a basketball, the electrons that circle it will be circling at 20 miles out. Everything else is nothing but space, but it is in this world, the quantum world, that you're able to affect with Olympic Arc technology. This isn't something that you learn in public school or Sunday school for that matter. You have a choice of spending time researching everything that supports the theory of being able to boost into an inanimate object, or like me, just choose to prove it yourself by way of experiment. In other words, just do it and take note what happens. And I'm going to give you the experiment here at the end. Anyway, here's an experiment that will prove the theory. Right? Ask someone to participate in an interesting experiment. Ask them to stand facing you in front of you with their feet together. Ask them, have them place their fist on top of each other and hold them tight on their chest above the line between their nipples. Say to them, I'm going to push down on your fist and I want you to resist me. Do not let your hands go down. Keep them tight on your chest and don't bend over. In other words, what I say is, when I'm pushing down, you push up and inward. And you got to make sure that they push inward and keep them tight. Then place your hand flat on top of their fist and press down as hard as you can. If done correctly, you should notice that their fists do come down slightly and their heels come up off the floor as they tip forward. Now ask them to lock their fingers together behind their back with their palms facing upward. Step behind them and put your fist in the middle of their upward facing palms and push down. Virtually everyone will fall backward. Now, boost a sock or piece of cloth with a strength boost and put the sock or cloth on their shoulder and repeat the test. Expect to be amazed at you and your subject recognize an undeniable increase in strength and balance. Whereas before they tipped forward and backward with your pressing, but with the boosted cloth or sock, you can press down virtually as hard as you want, but you'll find them to be rock solid, balanced, and strong, well beyond what they were without the boosted cloth or sock. By the way, be sure to place the unboosted sock on their shoulder when doing the first balance test. After you do the first test, take the sock, that very sock, off their shoulder, place it on a table or across the back of a chair and boost it. Then take the very same cloth, sock, or whatever, and put it back on their shoulder, and just expect to be amazed. Okay, can you imagine what you are capable of if I am correct in this theory? Well, you should be realizing that what you have at your fingertips with Olympic Arc is the power to change the world, not only within you, but is also, as well, the world around you. Folks, this is huge. Please do me a favor, like this video at the bottom, and also put a comment down there, and or any questions that you may have about this in the video in the comment section. But definitely put something in the comment section. Let me know what you think. So I'm really glad to finally get this thing out.